Your brain has been weaponized against you, not by some shadowy organization, but by the very platforms you trust. The most dangerous truths aren't hidden in encrypted files. They're sitting right there in your feed, disguised as just another scroll. Why you're programmed to miss the truth. Every single day, you're drowning in information. Your social feeds overflow with content. Your notifications never stop. And somewhere in that digital avalanche, critical truths are being buried alive. Not by censorship, not by some grand conspiracy, but by something far more insidious. Your own biology working against you. Here's what nobody talks about. Your attention isn't just limited, it's being actively hijacked. Tech companies have spent billions studying how to exploit your brain's reward system. They've mapped every neural pathway that responds to novelty, fear, and validation. And they've built platforms specifically designed to keep you engaged, not informed. Think about the last time you actually stopped scrolling. Really stopped. Most people can't remember because they're operating on autopilot. Your thumb moves, content flies by, and your prefrontal cortex barely registers what you're seeing. This isn't accidental. It's engineered behavioral conditioning. Research from Stanford University revealed that the average person now processes 5 times more information daily than someone did in 1986, yet retention rates have dropped by nearly 60%. You're seeing more and remembering less. Your brain is overloaded, and that overload creates the perfect blindness. Here's where it gets darker. The most valuable information doesn't trigger your engagement reflexes. A scientific breakthrough doesn't spark the same dopamine hit as outrage bait. A documented truth doesn't generate the addictive rush of tribal validation. So algorithms bury it. They're not programmed to enlighten you. They're programmed to monetize your attention. You've probably scrolled past information that could have changed your career, your health, or your relationships. But it didn't have a clickbait headline. It didn't confirm what you already believed. It didn't make you angry enough to comment. So your pattern recognition system flagged it as irrelevant and moved on. This is called inattentional blindness. Psychologists have known about it for decades. Show people a video and ask them to count basketball passes, and most won't notice a gorilla walking through the frame. Your focus creates blind spots, and those blind spots are being exploited systematically. The platforms you use every day aren't neutral delivery systems. They're attention manipulation engines. Every feature, from infinite scroll to autoplay, is designed to keep your eyes moving and your brain disengaged. Critical thinking requires you to stop, but stopping kills engagement metrics. What important truth have you scrolled past today without even realizing it? How public exposure became perfect camouflage. Let's talk about the most brilliant hiding strategy ever invented. You don't bury secrets in classified vaults anymore. You post them publicly. You make them available to everyone, and then you make sure nobody's actually looking. This isn't theory, it's documented reality. Major corporations have publicly filed documents admitting to practices that would outrage consumers. Government agencies have released data that contradicts their own messaging. Scientific studies have been published showing results that challenge billion-dollar industries. All of it accessible, all of it ignored. Why? Because visibility doesn't equal awareness. Your eyes can see something without your brain processing it. And in the age of information overload, that gap between seeing and understanding has become a canyon. Consider how many times you've heard someone say, "I didn't know that," about something that was public knowledge for years. They're not lying. They genuinely didn't know. Not because the information was hidden, but because it was camouflaged by volume, surrounded by so much noise that it became functionally invisible. Social media has perfected this art. Want to admit something controversial? Post it at exactly the right time when your audience is distracted by trending drama. Want to bury a damaging story? Release it Friday afternoon when people are mentally checking out for the weekend. Want to hide a fact? Surround it with 17 other facts so nobody can focus long enough to grasp its significance. Your attention has become the world's most valuable commodity, not your money, your attention. Because whoever controls what you focus on controls what you believe. And what you believe determines how you vote, what you buy, and who you trust. A study from MIT found that false information spreads 6 times faster than truth on social platforms. Not because people are stupid, but because lies are engineered for virality. They trigger emotional responses. They confirm biases. They demand to be shared. Truth is boring by comparison. Truth requires thought. The uncomfortable reality is that you're participating in your own blindness. Every time you share without reading, react without thinking, or scroll without pausing, you're reinforcing the system. You're training the algorithm to show you more of what keeps you distracted and less of what might wake you up. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The more you consume, the less you comprehend. The less you comprehend, the easier you are to manipulate. And manipulation dressed as entertainment is the hardest kind to resist. Impact. When was the last time you actually verified something before accepting it as true? If this is hitting different, smash that like button and subscribe. What happens when everyone sees but nobody understands? There's a psychological phenomenon that explains why crowds can witness the same event and walk away with completely different interpretations. It's called perceptual set, and it's running your life right now. Your brain doesn't record reality like a camera. It interprets signals based on expectations, past experiences, and emotional state. Two people can look at identical information and process completely opposite meanings, not because one is right and one is wrong, but because their mental frameworks are different. This is why the same news story can radicalize one person and bore another. Why the same scientific data can convince one community and get dismissed by another. Why truth has become tribal. We're not processing information objectively. We're filtering it through identity. Social platforms know this. They've built entire business models around it. They don't show you reality. They show you a customized version of reality designed to keep you engaged. Your feed isn't a window to the world. It's a mirror reflecting your own biases back at you, amplified and validated. Echo chambers aren't accidental features. They're the core product. You're not being shown what's true. You're being shown what keeps you scrolling. And the longer you scroll, the more advertising revenue gets generated. Your confusion is profitable. Your certainty is profitable. Your engagement is the product being sold. Research published in Nature Communications demonstrated that people are more likely to believe information that's been repeated, regardless of its accuracy. It's called the illusory truth effect. See something enough times, and your brain starts flagging it as reliable. Repetition creates credibility, even for lies. This is why propaganda works. Not because it's sophisticated, but because it's persistent. Flood the zone with your message, and eventually it becomes truth by familiarity. People stop questioning what they see everywhere. You're living in an information environment where volume matters more than validity, where visibility substitutes for verification, where the most repeated claim wins, regardless of evidence. And your brain, evolved for a world of scarce information, has no defense against this artificial abundance. The truth isn't being censored, it's being diluted, surrounded by so much contradictory content that it loses meaning. When everything is labeled as urgent, nothing actually is. When everyone claims to have the real story, nobody can identify which story is real. Revelation. What belief do you hold simply because you've heard it repeated so many times? If you're starting to see the pattern, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. How to reclaim your attention from the algorithm. Breaking free from manufactured blindness isn't about consuming more information. It's about consuming differently. Your attention is the battlefield, and right now, you're losing. Start with awareness. Recognize that every platform you use has been optimized to exploit your psychological vulnerabilities. Autoplay isn't a convenience feature. Recommended content isn't serving your interests. Trending topics aren't organically popular. These are manipulation mechanisms dressed as user experience. The first step is friction. Add resistance to your consumption patterns. Turn off notifications. Remove social apps from your home screen. Force yourself to manually open them rather than reflexively tapping. Every extra step you add between impulse and action creates space for conscious choice. Next, diversify your information diet. If you only consume content from sources that agree with you, you're not informed. You're indoctrinated. Deliberately seek perspectives that challenge your assumptions, not to adopt them, but to test your own thinking. Strong beliefs should be able to withstand scrutiny. Practice active consumption. Before you scroll, decide what you're looking for. Before you share, verify the source. Before you react, pause and ask yourself what emotion is being triggered and why. These simple interventions disrupt the autopilot mode that platforms depend on. Understand that not everything deserves your attention. In fact, most things don't. The urgency you feel around trending topics is manufactured. The fear of missing out is engineered. Nothing truly important requires your immediate reaction. Quality thinking takes time. Build information literacy. Learn to recognize manipulation techniques. Understand how headlines are crafted for clicks rather than accuracy. Notice when articles use emotional language to bypass your critical thinking. Identify when you're being sold certainty in a complex situation. Create consumption windows. Designate specific times for social media and news, rather than letting them interrupt your entire day. Your attention is finite. Protect it like the valuable resource it is. What you focus on literally shapes your reality. The truth has always been hiding in plain sight, but plain sight requires you to actually look, not scroll, not glance. Look with intention, with skepticism, with the recognition that someone is always trying to direct your gaze away from what matters. Your mind is yours, but only if you reclaim it. Transform. What's one specific change you'll make to how you consume information starting today? If this perspective shifted something for you, drop a like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it.